People were enamored by her looks. The face card was not declining.
Is she not here?
No, she's not here.
Oh my God, just went on tour with somebody that hates my guts. Wow.
Shit, that girl is singing off key on the record.
Hey guys, it's your girl Cameron and I'm back at it again with another video. And today we are going to be talking about a potential revival of pop training and methodology through the lens of the Popstar Academy Catseye documentary on Netflix. On this channel, we constantly discuss what happened to artist development, where is the attention to detail, where is the funding, where is the investment, where is the training before debuting. I'm tired personally of asking the same questions, so we want solution. The Western market finds someone with a little talent, if they even have that, slaps their name on them, and boom, produces a song, throws them on a huge stage, rushes the process, and they burn out as fast as they began. A constant revolving door. And you guys in my comments would always tell me K-pop is the answer, from the training to the attention to detail. So when I kicked my feet up and I watched this Catseye documentary, my eyes opened and I started thinking to myself, is this training the answer? The training that could potentially revive the Western market? Because here in the Catseye documentary, it follows the lives of trainees in the first class of a global girl group who is going to be undergoing K-pop training, essentially taking the K out of K-pop. And so today I want to go through a journey. I want to talk about the plight of the girl group in the Western market. But most importantly, we are going to mostly talk about and do a deep dive on this Catseye documentary, dissecting the training, the choreography, the singing, the dancing, the drama, the girl group, and where they stand today. I had a lot of you guys say you wanted this from me. I asked you last week, so I'm here, I'm sat. And if you haven't watched the documentary, I would encourage you to watch this video regardless, because there's so many interesting things that we're going to talk about that a lot of you guys probably don't know. And I think it's good info for those of us who really want to see what it might look like if we implemented actual training, like Popstar School. What does that look like? So stick around, like, comment down below. What do you guys think of this topic today? Let's chat and hit that subscribe button. We're almost to 70,000 subscribers, so please, 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 if you haven't yet, hit that button down below. It's free 99. And lastly, I gotta plug my Patreon. I just dropped a reaction to Sabrina Carpenter's Short and Sweet album. It's a great time over there. And without further ado, we are just going to get straight into the commentary. Very briefly, we're going to talk about the girl group plight in the Western market. And this is going to give a lens into maybe why they're even doing this project. So we have seen the ebbs and flows of girl groups in the West, right? From the early Motown rise through the 50s, 60s, 70s, and also a plethora of groups in the 90s, the 2000s, and even the 2010s. But a lot of them were very short-lived. I would say in the Western market right now, we have groups like Flow, doing great, absolutely love them. Really holding a space in the R&B lane. Boys World, which disbanded, Bella Dose, and I would say Now. There's a couple, but it's definitely a dying breed in the Western market. So there's room for a Western girl group to really take storm, similar to the magnitude that a lot of K-pop groups are taking storm, like Blackpink or Les Seraphim or New Jeans, right? Because yeah, we have girl groups here, but they're not selling out stadiums and arenas like K-pop groups are. So how could they marry the two and create that boom, that sparkle, that magic that's been missing for girl groups and boy groups for a very long time? Well, how do they create this magic? The K-pop girl group making machine. We have Popstar Academy Catseye, guys. What is it like to be a trainee? Was this and is this the magic touch that we need? And this documentary, guys, gave us a front row seat. This documentary captivated audiences. Their story started long before the doc. The group picking actually took place in November 2023, and fans actually had a hand in picking the group members and voting. And the internet and social media connected the selected trainees to the rest of the world, leaving them vulnerable and at the mercy of the internet. At times, a position that we can all find ourselves in, but maybe in a different way. Bad people interested in exposing your personal info. That's where we've gotten to. Well, I would like to thank Aura for sponsoring today's video. And it's so important that we talk about them right now because hackers may have stolen the social security number of every single American. And when I heard this news, my heart sank. But only for a second, because I remembered that I use Aura, who protects my information at every corner. Recently, over 2.9 billion records were stolen from the national public data. And this info offers personal information to employers, private investigators, staffing agencies, and other companies doing background checks. And what do these records include? Your full name, date of birth, address, social security numbers, and alternate name and birth date. And what's scary, that members of this hacker group have reportedly released this information on the internet for free. Quite terrifying knowing that. Like, I hate the fact that hackers can use my sensitive information, put it out there, and not face a lot of repercussions. And I hope this is a huge wake-up call for you, especially for those of you guys who have not yet taken any steps to protect your personal information online. You are more vulnerable than ever before. But I'm personally not too worried because I use Aura. Aura will alert me if they find my number, email, or social security number on the dark web. And they're also going to let me know quickly, swiftly, and promptly if anyone attempts to use my information to access my credit or bank accounts. And they also offer so many other useful tools to keep you safe online. And it gets even better because it is all in one app. So you don't have to pay for a bunch of different services and get confused on where to look for what. And one of the best parts is that they give you up to $5 million in identity theft insurance if the worst case scenario does happen. So you can go to my link at aura.com/CameronSuzanne to try 14 days for free. And that will be enough time for Aura to identify if any of your personal information has been exposed. And I highly recommend that you guys do this right now because unfortunately, the national public data is not going to face any repercussions for this leak, and they're not going to help you do anything about it. And I'm not going to leave myself or my family exposed to data breaches. And if you don't want to either, you can go to aura.com/CameronSuzanne to try 2 weeks free. Thank you, Aura, for sponsoring today's video, and we're going to get right back into the video. So let's talk about the inner workings of the documentary and some of the beginning details that we need to make everything make sense. We have Hybe times Geffen, and they are attempting to make their first global girl group using the Kpop training method. Hybe is a major South Korean entertainment corporation, while Geffen is a mainstream American label who have signed the likes of Olivia Rodrigo, Camila Cabello, and they've essentially decided to combine their powerful forces to create a global girl group, but insert the Kpop training. And it was like this manifestation of making the band, but with a K-pop twist. The documentary debuted on August 21st with 8 episodes on Netflix, and it followed the journey of a number of trainees through a rigorous 2-year process, year-and-a-half process, each of them essentially fighting for a spot in the group. The show began roughly with about 12 to 13 girls moving to a home in LA or moving to LA. And as time progressed, they would bring more girls into the house until they had 20 trainees. And then they would go through the process of a survival show to eventually be chosen as one of the 6 final members. So don't worry, guys, we are going to get into every little nitty-gritty detail from the trainees, from the girls, from the survival show, from the debut to the marketing to where they are now. But I really want to start with what fascinates me the most, which is the training. So let's start there, and then we will work our way down the line. I could see very clearly that artist development was extremely important and is a crucial portion of the K-pop development. And that was actually one of my favorite parts of writing the process. And there's issues in here, but I will say, as someone who grew up training to be a professional dancer and doing summer intensives where for months, like you're dancing day in, day out, you're taking all these classes. I understand the craft and the art of training so hard for something. So that inherently doesn't bother me. And I kind of like the idea of pouring so much into the artists. In the documentary, they call it TND, which stands for Training and Development. It's like a sports training for pop stars, right? It's that kind of level. It's that rigorous. It's that taxing and demanding, physically and mentally. But it arguably may make stars. In Korea, they usually train for years. And some of these girls, they will start training when they're kids, going to training camps, get in early with the label. But this project is much shorter. It's about roughly 2 years, and they would end up pushing their debut forward. So that even gave them less time to train and develop. And in this scenario, because it's outside of like that Korean market, right, that South Korean market, they were scouting girls on a global international scale. This T&D process includes going through singing lessons, dancing lessons, recording studio sessions, etiquette training, media training, language classes, content marketing, visual performance classes. It is a full scope. Anything a pop star would need to be successful is offered to them. And they train day in, day out. They usually move away from home, and they dedicate years of their lives to maybe being picked, maybe not being picked. And to start, I want to highlight all of the people that aided in their growth and their development. So we have San, who's the executive creator of Hybe times Geffen. He actually worked as BTS choreographer and really helped develop their style from the ground up. And he's actually the creative director for this Katseye project. He's kind of strict, kind of direct, no chill.
님도 그 문제점을 확실히 알고 있어요?
Like, literally so honest. It was kind of funny. John Janik, who's the chairman and CEO of Interscope, Geffen, A&M. Mitra, I don't know how to say her name, president of Hybe times Geffen. We'll talk about her more, but she's a bit cold. She's a tough cookie. And I wasn't really feeling her. Missy, she's the senior T&D program director or manager. We'll talk about her too. She's very iffy to me. Don't know how I feel about Missy. And then we have Bang, who helped build BTS and put them together from the ground up and really turn them into this global sensation. He only sees them like during evaluations through video. He doesn't meet the girls until it's time to go public. And then we have a couple dance instructors like Nikki, Jay. Nikki specifically was their heels teacher. She was a little snippy. She was a little tough. And then we have Sohei. I really like Sohei. He's the performance director. Said that they brought Sohei in to guide the girls, to not over-sexualize the girls, but to also not give Disney. And then there were also people in the vocal category, vocal department. And then Humberto, it was the creative director. He's a fashion visionary with intentionality, pulling out cultural identities, guiding the idea of the girls finding their identity. And again, for a global girl group, it's important that each cultural identity is represented properly, and that adds an edge to the group that maybe some other more homogenous groups cannot do. And then they also had Dr. Wetter, who's the psychologist for the trainees, which I think is a positive way to approach this. When the girls first got to training and development, they spent a lot of time on fundamental skills from dancing, singing. Make sure you have the basics, whether that's understanding isolation, whether that's understanding movement, flow, rhythm, and also from a singing perspective, the notes of the scale, staying on pitch, staying on tune, being off key. Each month they were scored at an end-of-month evaluation in front of executives and their instructors, and they could move up that scale and take classes depending on their skill level. And because they had that ABC level, for the most part, most of the girls were in the B level at the very highest. And then one girl, Emily, which we'll talk about, she did make it to the A level for dance. But I learned quickly that levels necessarily did not indicate a setback of you being in the group. As I think in the K-pop world, when building a group, they embrace the fact that every member has their role to play. There's some people in the group that need to be stronger dancers and vice versa for the singer/personality. When the Hybe/Geffen team evaluates the trainees during the T&D process, they're openly ranked by dance, vocals, visual performance, star quality, and attitude from a scale of 1 to 10. And the girls all have access to their rankings. So that creates a level of competition, a level of anxiety for the girls because they can kind of see who's here, who's there, who's at the bottom, who's at the top. And also keep in mind, girls can be eliminated during this process. I like the fact that it wasn't like a given elimination every evaluation. It was just more based off of if the judges felt like they needed more time and they could do it versus, hey, it's not going to be a fit. Now, one thing that kind of confused me, because y'all know I'm an enthusiast. I like the triple threat. I like the talented person who can sing, dance, who can do it all. But that's more in a soloist context. I didn't understand why they just couldn't find a lot more people who were good at both singing and dancing. I was like concerned because I'm like, y'all sending girls here who some of them can't even hold a note.
Shit, that girl is singing off key on the record.
Like, I'm telling you, pitch off, like horribly off, like bad. There were some girls who had never danced a day in their life. And I was confused at the fact, I was like, you guys did international applications. 120,000 girls applied. Y'all couldn't find a couple people who could do both, like decently well. And Bang described it, the way that they pick, the process. It would be nice if they could have group members where they were great at everything, the best dancers and singers. But he says that it's almost impossible to create that team. Their level and their line of thought is Okay, with training and development, we can make sure everybody at the very least is on a standard level. Standard skill set, you have the basics, you don't have a weak link. And I do think that this allows for each of the girls to bring their own unique flair, not be super influenced, and also still be able to be them, pull out their talents and their strong suits. And I think for a group this works. It is okay to have someone who's stronger at dancing, someone who's stronger at singing. I don't think everybody has to be exceptional at all, because it's a team. Same thing with the basketball team. You have some people who are great defensive players. You have some people who are great shooters. You have some people who are great offense. You have some people who are great at getting rebounds. With a team, you don't need everybody to be everything. I came to understand and accept that. And we get into the dancing and T&D. Honestly, guys, I'm like kind of obsessed with the choreography. I think it's great. It's niche with the formations, the details, it's effortlessness. And San actually gives the choreographers in T&D certain notes and things that he wants them to work on. Instructions like, okay, work on footwork this week, work on body rolls, work on isolations, work on waves. There's an attention to detail, literally with the fundamentals. And I like to see that they were doing that. And there's also attention to detail, facial expression, synchronization that these girls have to adapt to and adapt to within the K-pop style, because it can be very different from this like fiery, feisty, over the top. And there was a couple people who commented like, why are they focusing more on dancing than the singing? Isn't the singing more important? For a camera perspective, I think it's probably more interesting to watch things like dance rehearsals. So they might have cut out a lot of the vocal lessons and group sessions and all of that. But also, let's be very real here, I feel like with a voice, you can slap a bit of auto-tune on the track or on the mic. You can't auto-tune the dance. You can't auto-tune the dancing. So I think that's why they spent a lot more time on the overall like imagery of it versus just the vocals. I want to kind of talk about some of the trainees that stood out. So we have Megan, who's 17. Mind you guys, this took place within like a 2-year process. So like by the time it ended, she was probably like 18 or 19. I personally kind of always liked her. She was a sleeper though. You know, she didn't have like this super like boom in your face personality, but once she really got into her groove, she had a natural charm. She can turn on when the music comes on, when the lights go up. I also like the fact that she was able to really like find her movement and grounded in that, because she's a taller girl. Emily, who was 19 at this time or the start of training, and she's from the USA. Nice girl, hard worker. She was actually the first girl to be moved to level A, maybe the only girl to be moved to level A in dancing. But guys, I'm gonna be so honest with you. Emily always gave sickening background dancer vibes to me. And being a background dancer is not a diss. It's not. But I'm not trying to be rude, but she just didn't have that it factor look to me. And obviously that's a critique that came out later in the voting process. And she's also significantly shorter than a lot of the other girls. So when you saw her in the lineup, it just, all of these things I think go into play. Adela from Slovakia. She was the big sis of the group, but unfortunately, guys, I felt like there was a veil. I think she was kind of a big sis of the group, and she took care of who she liked and who she wanted to, but there were some things she said and did that just came off a little bit disingenuous, and I just personally didn't love that. We have Manon from Switzerland. I mean, actually, Manon came in some months later after the girls had started training. She wasn't professionally trained in dancing or singing. Her arrival was a bit shaky. Honestly, her entire time was shaky. In my opinion, I feel like there was tension from day one. One of the reasons why she was picked was because she had the it factor. She had that star quality that exuded without her having to even lift a pinky finger. In a way, and we'll talk about the Manon drama, I don't think that they gave her enough credit. Lara, 17 from the USA. I actually thought she was much older. Casting directors brought her in later into the process because they still didn't have like that star vocalist that they felt could sell out stadiums. And so when her intro came in, it was sickening.
Anybody could be that final member that we need.
That girl could sing. She had the confidence, which Missy said could be off-putting. But one of the struggles with Laura that they saw initially was that Laura was giving very much solo artist, like giving, hey, while the other girls are singing, you need to be a background singer. you're doing too much. You're not a soloist. So that was kind of a point of contention. Ezrella, she's 20 from Australia. Didn't really see it from her. I think she was such a poised, sweet girl, but so mature, so intelligent. I just didn't think like this group was a fit. We have Sophia from the Philippines. Sophia's a hard worker. She's one of those girls who's by the book, clean cut. She's supportive of everyone, but she works hard. But one thing that Missy pointed out was that she was kind of worried that Sophia was a little too cookie cutter, and that they also needed someone who would be well received by Americans, because I guess Americans, we want to see someone who's cool, someone who breaks boundaries and breaks rules. And she was missing a bit of that edge, and I could see that. I felt like that was a fair assessment. I grew to really like Sophia. I felt like she was that well-rounded member, great at singing, a good dancer, a team player. Daniela, absolutely loved her. She had a bit of a struggle because she came from a ballroom background. Her dynamic dancing and energy just didn't fully always match that K-pop style. But once they kind of got her to soften up, her facial expressions, they made sure that she was incorporating that. She was damn near unstoppable. Honestly, she was my favorite dancer the entire time. Point blank, period. I felt like she could have been moved up to level A. But she's also one of the girls who was on America's Got Talent as a kid. So You Think You Can Dance as a kid. I remember seeing her on that season. So she also kind of has experience in being in high pressure environments. Ilya gave off a mature vibe, right? Even from her voice, like the deepness, the richness, and the texture to her voice. She was always kind of given this correction of looking too old. But she was a TikTok girly with a strong singing suit, and she was really there because of her voice. And one thing that the judges would constantly say about her, I told her, you need to tone down your facial expressions. It feels unnatural. It feels like overkill. And again, it kind of depends on the stylistic of singing. I think that's kind of a funny correction, because if you're a vocalist and you're like belting and you're trying to get those notes out from all the way down in your diaphragm, you're not always going to look pretty. So that kind of just confirmed to me that, they don't want people to really be singing for real. Naisha, we got to talk about Naisha, because there were a couple things that rubbed me the wrong way in this documentary, in this training process. She was a dancer. She was not a good singer by any means. She was probably the worst singer out of the group, but she had this explosive style of movement, and she kind of described how it was a learning curve for her. It was challenging because she's like, I come from a different culture, and the way that they wanted her to express her movement completely kind of was opposite or opposed that. And she's a hip hopper at heart. And to be honest with you guys, they were making some little slick comments from the moment they chose her about her technique and about her aura. Like Missy said something about her dancing aggressively. To me, guys, that kind of read a bit as a microaggression. And there were little things that they would say, oh, we need that masculine energy. Sometimes certain qualities get attributed to you because of your skin tone. Despite, to me, I felt like she had some very unique textures than they gave her credit for. I mean, she was like in level D or C as a dancer. Have you guys seen her dance? To me, there was no reason why she should have been that low. And I hate this whole technique word, her technique, because usually that's rooted in like a balletic term. We have Yoonchae from South Korea. She's one of the younger ones out of the group, blended in kind of the entire time. But that girl's a star. And there was one portion, I just want to mention this, but when Yoonchae first came, because Yoonchae came maybe like a year after the girls had been training, Adela was like,
Great. You're Yoonchae. You're YC. You're YC. Okay. We just decided YC was her nickname. Do you like YC? Like what name? What like?
And the girl was like, no, call me Yoonchae. And that just read wrong to me. Y'all need to start learning people's names. I don't care if it's hard for you. Don't automatically run to let's just give them a nickname so it makes my life easier. I don't like that. We have Marquis from Thailand. Gorgeous, stunning, gorgeous, but she kind of was like in the middle. Like I kind of forgot about her. Lexi, she was a front runner for me. There was just an allure about her. Like her voice was unique. It was cute. Like her facial expressions, the way she was able to work the camera. I personally, guys, feel like if she had stayed, she would have been in the group. I think the label was pushing for her the entire time, but we'll talk about it. We know she wanted to leave. We have Samara from Brazil. She came up a little bit later. We'll talk more about her. And then lastly, I'm just going to mention Nayoung. She's 21 from South Korea. And actually, guys, she had experience performing in survival shows and being on singing shows in Korea. So beautiful voice. Really liked her. Beautiful girl. But it just didn't work out. But Bang decided. He's like, you know what? He said, I think I want them to go public sooner. And that's where we get into fan involvement via the survival show. The fandoms are the heart and soul of K-pop, and it's actually quite the phenomenon. Like, the survival show is similar to an idea of X Factor, American Idol. However, in K-pop, they described it as usually these shows are of one gender, guy or girl, and it's people fighting for their spot in a K-pop group versus being a soloist. So their survival show is called A Dream Academy, and this is where shit gets real. Honestly, this is where shit hits the fan. It's starting to get a little juicy. It's a 12-week voting process, and the girls go through multiple missions to then be chosen in a final show. A show is produced that allows viewers to vote for the girls and essentially have a say in who stays or goes. But mind you, the girls did not know when they first came to training like 2 years ago that this was going to be a survival show, to the point where some of the girls had asked, is this going to be a survival show? And they were repeatedly told no. So they were like lied to, basically. So prior to going public, they started doing a lot more media training, marketing classes, and they met with Brandon, who was the artist content strategist. And it was interesting to kind of see the process that goes into the marketing side of the artist. This is where they're starting to really shape the image of the group. They're shaping the perception, the audience, and developing their on-camera personalities. Explaining that their main demo, their target is a young audience, and that they're idols. Which, guys, by the way, I did a video on parasocial relationships last week, and that idol term is kind of questionable to me, because idolization just gives a level of chaos. It just screams a level of chaos to me. I think that's done very intentionally to call them idols just versus stars. They also would meet with their visual performance instructor, where they would legit get in front of a camera and just lip sync to a song. Like, working the cameras with their eyes to be more conscious of how they read on camera. So again, this is all about the details that they put into their trainees. It's actually insane. And from there, they start building the uniforms. What is the identity of this group? They start prepping for a press conference and an art film to introduce the girls to the world. So within the show, they would complete 3 missions. We had mission 1, where they were split into 4 separate groups. 2 of the groups were going to be going against each other head to head in a singing showcase. And then 2 of the other groups were going to be going head to head in a dancing only showcase. And they did try to make the groups fair and balanced. So like, okay, we have an A-level dancer in this one. We're going to try to put a B-level in this one. We're going to try to put a D level in this one, a D level in this one, vice versa with the singers. That way that they don't put all of their strongest in one group, and so that it's still very balanced. And I like the thought process behind that and the intentionality. Then we had mission 2, which was actually done in Korea to perform 2 Les Seraphim songs. 2 groups were going to do Anti-Fragile and 2 groups were going to do Fearless. Now for this challenge, this was the first one that they had to dance and sing at the same time. And to be quite honest with you guys, I was shocked by this. This was a problem for me, because how are you telling me that we are a year and a half in? Some of these girls have been training in T&D for a year plus. And this is one of the first times that they're really diving into singing and dancing at the same time. I personally feel like that is a skill that they should have been developing. I don't know why there was such an oversight in that. And that kind of leads me to think that they really pushed the lip syncing bit. And then mission 3, that was the main final last mission. We had 3 groups of 5 performing original choreography, finally original, by iconic songs. One group did Buttons by Pussycat Dolls, the other group did Wannabe by the Spice Girls, and the one group did Confident by Demi Lovato. Personally, I love the Buttons choreo. But let's be very clear. Sophia, Manon, and Daniela ate that shit up. And Sophia was sick too. But that little dun, 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 ate that up. Loved it. And actually the Buttons choreo went kind of viral. Like people were messing with it. So the catch was that they were eliminated each round of mission. Highest fan votes would often get immunity, and then if you didn't, you'd be vulnerable not only to fan votes but also to the judge's decision. And eliminations were done by an AI voice on a TV screen while they all just sit in chairs, which I think is kind of bold. And one thing that I think was interesting about this phase of the process was the fans. To a science, from a social level, it was fascinating to see what the fans gravitated to. And some of the girls developed fan bases based off of their nationality, their ethnicity, their looks, and aspects that the girls could not change. So you started to see some girls get hate comments. Emily got a lot of negative comments and the least interaction out of everyone. And it's fascinating because I think a lot of people who watch the documentary are like, Emily should have made it. This is crazy. But she just wasn't getting the votes. And the reason why I think there's a delineation and a shift is because with the documentary, we could see how Emily worked. I don't think that when this was live, the Dream Academy was live, I don't think a lot of people got a lot of the behind the scenes. So you are looking at what's on camera, and for people, Emily just was not giving that in comparison to some of the other girls. So we have the context of the work that she might have put in. But sometimes you just don't fit that mold or fit that criteria. For example, Sophia got a lot of country support from the Philippines. Nayoung actually got less support from South Korea in voting, but more from the US because of her strong vocal capabilities. And then they also said that the girls in the US, like Daniela, Emily, etc., were struggling. Some of the execs thought that maybe because they were American that would push them. I didn't think that. Adela was kind of talking about in their therapy session how the Americans are feeling what Slovaks feel. She's from Slovakia.
All the time. Like, we don't ever get represented, ever.
And I understand for a lot of the girls and a lot of the way that Dream Academy was set up, they made it more nationality based. Like, all the girls hold their flag. It's a lot of country pride. And I get it, guys. From looking on the outside in and looking at America, you know, there's this perception that Americans, like, every American thinks that they're so much better and they're going to do so much better and that we perceive ourselves a certain way. But I can tell you, as an American, that there's so many ethnicities and cultures that a lot of people in America, they're repping their culture first before they're like, I'm American. So to me, it was like when Laura, even though she was American, I think she was more in the headspace of, I want to put on for the Indian girls. I think Daniela, even though she was from the United States, she was more like, I want to put on for the Latinas. I don't think the Americans were really looking at it from like a nationality standpoint as deeply as maybe some of the other girls like Adela. The way that we were perceived is often by our looks, especially in America with a society that's so culturally diverse. It's a melting pot. So a lot of people are still repping their culture. I didn't think that the American thing was going to push them. And why would it? If we are using a K-pop methodology, and most fans who are probably following this were tapped into the K-pop world, I don't see why the Americans would do any better. And then we saw that girls who ranked higher in training and development did not find fan favoritism. It was actually such a stark contrast. Specifically, people like Adela, Emily, and Megan at first to some capacity. Adela, who ranked usually 1 through 4 in the training and development process, was dead last during their first mission. She got the least amount of votes. She went from the top of the pack for roughly a year and a half to being cut all the way to the bottom. Versus, let's say, someone like Manon. At the end of training and development, Manon usually fell towards the bottom of the totem pole. And then once they opened fan voting and once the art films released and the public saw Manon, she was in the top 4 consistently during the survival show. And the girls didn't like that. Let's talk about it. So we saw Adela go home mission 1 because of the low votes. We also saw Adela grappling. Actually, a lot of the girls grappling with the idea that Manon was doing so well. And I think everybody had to swallow a harsh pill. We're not creating soloists, we're creating a group. And it's not always about how talented you are. When you have a group, it is also about the it factor. And she has it. Sometimes you have it and sometimes you don't. A lot of the girls the entire time had beef with Manon because she didn't show up for classes. She had, quote, curfew issues. She eventually moved out of the LA home with the other girls and seemed MIA. But there were times where she was actually legitimately sick. People were enamored by her looks. The face card was not declining. And the girls were not fond of the fact that she was scoring so well, despite them feeling like she didn't show up. We even had people like Missy, which Missy, I don't know, she's a little messy boots. Like, if you feel this way about Manon, then say something. Even Missy was like, she wouldn't put her in the group due to her working experience with Manon.
Sometimes people of star quality have this arrogance or whatever it is about them. But with K-pop, there's also this required humbleness and kindness and caring about others and your teammates. I have not seen that from Manon. I would absolutely not put her in this group based on my work experience with her.
After the first public voting, they went to their therapy session. Manon was sick, by the way, which I felt like it was really shitty of them to all be talking about her without her being present. Turned somehow into a discussion about Manon. Like, they were all so upset. I didn't really like how the therapist didn't try to re-navigate that conversation. And in general, there was slick being said about Manon the whole time. And I don't know if a lot of the girls ever really thought, like, let me sit down and actually talk to her. Adela quoted,
Manon, she's getting so much attention. People are upset because she doesn't put a lot of effort and she doesn't show up for her teams a lot. And so people are upset that she is the person who's getting so much attention. It's not based on anything right now. It's just because she's pretty, and that's true. She is pretty.
Is Manon here?
No, she's not here.
But then there's some people like
Manon, yeah. She doesn't show up to rehearsals. Even when I was there, she wasn't showing up. No, she never does. And it's like she breaks the rules and she doesn't get penalized for it. Like, now it's being completely ignored, and it's like, yes.
Sophia said, why are you upset? Because we're frustrated with you.
She's literally spoken to me saying that she's upset that we're saying things and all that, but why are you upset that we're frustrated at you? Like, when it's you're doing it.
Laura said,
and then to see people who don't show up be at the top, it's just stupid. It's not based on how talented you are, like things that actually matter. It's just based on how pretty you are.
All of this about Manon. She can't control the fan voting. And guys, the show business is not fair. We've talked about this many times. It's not. But these are young women. So I understand both sides from a perspective of, okay, you feel like she's not showing up. But you guys are preaching this sisterhood. But it doesn't seem like a lot of people are checking in on her. A lot of people don't seem like they're holding her accountable to her face. It's more of like I'm talking about you behind your back. And we're just mad. Picking for reasons.
And a lot of hard work and like paying attention and doing your part, like taking notes in class and paying attention to like what's happening in class, even if you are sitting out.
Yeah, but I have been taking notes when I was sitting out.
그 아티스트들이 왜 무대 위에서 어떤 거를 왜 하는지 연구를 하는 것도 중요하고 되게 단면적으로 보이는 거.
And even Manon, when she showed up to Korea, like Sophia was giving her dirty looks.
Sophia just gave me the dirtiest look on planet Earth. Why? I don't know.
Laura was giving her dirty looks.
How are you? Yeah.
And she was sick. Yeah, it's bold. Adela worked very hard from the beginning, and she got voted out the first mission. And if I'm being honest with you, Adela did not read on camera. She didn't have that spark that she needed. So it did not surprise me that she succumbed to her circumstance. But this whole idea of it's not fair. Nobody in this was on a fair playing field. And you know how I know that? Because some girls were training from day one in T&D. They had full access to dance instructors, full access to vocal instructors the entire time. Some girls showed up a year later. Don't you feel like they probably felt like they might not have had a chance because some of y'all had been working for a year? Some girls had been on survival shows. Some girls had been on TV shows. We are working with a different level of peoples. There's always going to be advantages. And Manon's advantage was that she's gorgeous. And also, I actually like Manon's vocal tone. I thought she was a good dancer. I thought she was decent. I think she had the puzzle pieces. She had the basics. But the look was there. So everyone wanted to rag on the fact, oh, she's pretty. So it's unfair. But everybody there was levels of fairness and unfairness. If we wanted to make this completely fair, then everybody should have started at the same time. Everybody should have been able to adjust at the same time. There wouldn't have been people who were former K-pop trainee. Like, my point is, though, guys, you have to, like, and I've learned this, being in spaces like this, there's sometimes where you have to suck it up and get the over it. There's some girls who have mommy's, daddy's money who have dance classes that they were able to pay for 5 days a week. Going to the nicest training program. I'm just saying, maybe I'm being a little too empathetic and I feel like they didn't really give Manon much of a chance and they didn't extend much grace to her versus kind of turning to that dirty look or that like catty behavior. But nothing was fully 100% fair in this scenario. So let's be real. Speaking of Manon, to kind of wrap this part up, I appreciated her pulling the girls for a chat. I think she knew in her heart that she was going to be in the group. She wanted the girls to have some sort of camaraderie and she wanted to be accountable. She even apologized for her behavior and no one else really apologized either. They just said do better, which I felt like lacked a little bit of like communicative empathy. But okay. And she even told them, if you feel like I'm not doing something, say it to me. I would really appreciate you saying it to my face versus talking about it behind my back. And again, I think to build trust, that's what needs to happen. Manon was a wallflower. She kind of was off to the side and to herself. And a lot of people were, I don't know if they were intimidated by how she looked. I don't know if they were intimidated by her presence or read her shyness for a cockiness, which often happens to a lot of Black girls. But to me, I felt like they didn't really facilitate a space for her to open up either. So I think it kind of went both ways. I'm glad she was mature about it and handled it the right way, and things seemed to sail a little bit smoother. We got to talk about the elimination from hell. There was a debacle in Korea that left the girls in pieces. During Mission 2, in the elimination, they were shown footage of each of them being privately asked, if you could choose 5 other girls to be in the group, who would it be? And then you also had to ask, who do you think is going to get eliminated this round? They aired that footage to the girls unexpectedly, even though they were told they wouldn't have to watch it, at least in front of each other. There were people like Ilya, who only received 1 vote to be in a group. Manon. Some girls received none. I think Brooke and Ua received no votes. And like with this whole voting situation, and like I know Ilya got sent home. I know the girls were trying to be nice, but I wasn't even mad at Ilya.
You will not be receiving an invitation.
Y'all wanted me out anyways. Like,
I would have been kind of pissed. Now y'all want to be, y'all know this is a competition show. People have to go home. Y'all just verbatim voted me out the most and said you would. So why are we acting surprised? Especially when they were low-key retaliating after Adela got sent home because some girls held something against her because Ilya took Adela's spot. Let's talk about it. And some people were saying it was harsh, but like emotions are running high. And how would you feel if you just had to watch a tape and see the results that pretty much everybody said that you should go home next? Bruh. And Lexi, who was really a front runner, she made it through that round, but she walked away from that feeling perturbed. She felt like Hybe Geffen broke the girls' trust and that they started to turn this into a divisive environment. Some girls are like, I don't want to be a part of this girl group if it means that I have to go against my friends. And so essentially Lexi decided that she wasn't going to show up to rehearsals for 10 days and she left and they mutually agreed to leave. And my question with this is it seemed like people were very empathetic to other girls for missing or not showing up. But with Manon, it was a problem. I'm just going to leave that there. I don't get that. I would have been kind of pissed if we were rehearsing all week for something, a very important challenge, and Lexi's not showing up. But I support Lexi in leaving because I do feel like if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And if you feel that that's just not your calling and you don't want to do that from a moral perspective and it bothered you, by every means protect yourself. And through all of this, even just the fan process and the elimination and survival show, we see the importance of fan voting, guys. That's really the bread and butter of this. And we see that the girls started being very strategic in what they would post on Instagram, almost becoming kind of cliquey in a way, informally creating their group of 6. So like, for instance, they said if they saw one girl wasn't getting voted for a lot, they would make sure they post more with her. For instance, Emily was being voted to the very bottom. What happened? Lara, Sophia, Megan, all of them started posting with Emily a lot to help boost her votes. Sophia posted a TikTok with Yoonchae, and I guess she wasn't getting a lot of votes, and now Sophia's fans were saying that they liked Yoonchae. It shows this flock mentality of like stan culture, especially in the K-pop world within groups, how it can take this much to gain people's love and attention, and it can take this much for them to hate you. And so the girls were really playing and feeding into this game. So you started to see the girls kind of naturally form their bonds, their alliances, their cliques, etc. naturally. This person wasn't with this one. And so you start creating like this level of drama around the group, which arguably may not be great for building the foundation of a girl group, because girl groups notoriously always have drama issues. So final project, they performed 3 original songs, 2 separate groups, and then 1 main group. And the results were based upon fan voting, live fan voting, and the judges. The final members include Yoonchae, Megan, Sophia, Daniela, Manon, and Lara. I did not know about this group, y'all, so I was genuinely watching, like, not knowing who made it. But no notes. Great group. They would have been my pick. Of course, if Lexi had stayed, if Nayoung had stayed, if a couple girls had stayed, I could have seen it, but they didn't. So based off of this, these girls were a great fit, and I think that the right decision was made. So some things that were notable mentions or things that I didn't love about this doc, or like what I didn't love about the process, was how young some of the girls were, especially being in these trainee programs, especially when a lot of the youngest girls like Hinari, who was 14 at the time, Ua, who was 15, Yoonchae, who was 15 at the time, were moving across the world to do this. And I know they lived with a parent, but I feel like there's a strenuous level of work, and I think it can go into abusive territories very quickly, child labor. As much as I like the training style and how they were so adamant about pushing these details and creating this persona, I do think that it can easily lead to a lack of authenticity if you don't have the right team members and execs having a hand on these girls and making sure that they're being guided properly. I think sometimes that group training can kind of change the group in a way that might be different than bringing out certain levels of authenticity in people, where everything feels very uniform, everything feels samey, everything feels regurgitated. And I just think they have to be very careful of that. Can we talk about notable mention, the girls breaking the social media contract in episode 3? I'm going to be the stickler today. I'm going to be the negative Nancy. All the girls had private Instagram accounts and they were posting videos, and some girls posted original songs and rehearsals and all of that. And they all signed an NDA that had confidentiality rules of a contract from being in the program, which included not posting about this process at all to social media. You can still post, I believe, on Instagram, but just like nothing about the program, nothing with the trainees, nothing. Missy, the exec's son, found out, and they actually sent the girls home for a short period of time for breaking that rule, especially when Naisha had posted a original cover of a song on her private page. And Missy alludes to or alleges that Naisha had followers outside of the program on that account, and Naisha said she didn't. So Naisha ended up getting sent home over the whole debacle. But if I'm being honest with you guys, even San said it. He was like, I've never had this happen to me, and I've trained so many people. I think there's just a lack of discipline there. I don't think it was right for them to do that. I don't. The anticipation is the key. That is the buildup. People don't know. The public doesn't know your potential sound. The public doesn't know what this group might look like. And so any little detail or information leaked could ruin that rollout process. I don't really think they overreacted. Maybe they did, but like you can't just break NDAs and contracts like that. Also, another thing that was alarming to me was the amount of injuries, guys, and I mean serious injuries, from hip injuries to knee injuries to foot fractures. This type of rigorous training, it doesn't leave a whole lot of time for rest and repair. And it is important to take care of your body and restore itself. And again, there's just a level when you're going hard for 2 years. Yeah, but some girls, their fate was in the hands of the fact if they got an injury or not. So like you see people like Manon, who was taking maybe a day or two. And I don't know the context of everything, but yeah, sometimes you got to take a personal day. Sometimes you need to make sure that your mental is fine. And a lot of these girls suffered greatly from injuries and lost a lot of training time, where I think Hybe kind of went wrong. I think this documentary was important in exposing the girls, because a lot of people learned about the group and they probably wouldn't have. I think it was an exposure deal. But also, you guys knew this footage was incriminating from the sense of multiple members of your group that made the group low-key had beef or had issues. You know, Manon versus everybody, and people like Sophia and Lara specifically being very vocal about Manon in the documentary. It's not a good look. And you have seen fans go online and be honestly kind of disappointed about seeing this revelation. And in some ways, I think it could potentially hurt the group more than it helps it. And I think that they should have either facilitated that whole drama better, knowing that the world was going to see this, or maybe they should have released it. Because now you have some people who won't be able to look at some of the group members the same. I know Sophia has been getting a lot of flack, Laura into some capacity, and I think that these girls have moved on, so everybody should move along. But at the same time, the documentary just aired. I completely understand why people would be taken aback by this information, especially those of you guys who have followed this group since the beginning. They kind of made a bit of a misstep by making some of the parts of the process kind of divisive and capitalizing on that, because a lot of the girls who were beefing are in the group together, or didn't like each other in the group. So it kind of leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. And one little petty thing that really bothered me, why do they keep having them singing Ariana Grande songs? They were singing Breathing, POV, Break Free, 34, 35. Why set them up like that? They cannot sing those songs efficiently or well. That really irritated me. I was like, what are we doing? Why would I set myself up for vocal suicide? We can talk about the debut of the girls and the marketing, which was really fascinating to me, because recently we've talked about rollouts and all of that good stuff. I like the fact that the girls could choose their name. So Katseye was the choice. I think it was a great choice. They all unanimously agreed on that. I thought that the girls that were chosen were a great fit, and most of them were my front runners from a perspective of, okay, who fits in this puzzle piece in the group? So we have Megan, Sophia, Manon, Yunche, Daniela, and Lara in the group. Really no notes. I think all of them have an edge. All of them have an it factor or star quality. And I actually think Yoonchae specifically was a sleeper, because when you watch some of their performances, past their debut, like, she's a star. And she really was under the radar during the documentary and during training. I don't think people looked at her as a threat. And one thing I've learned, like, looking through the Katseye marketing and just seeing how much time they put into the launch to them actually executing the launch, is Kpop does not starve their fans. There's so much content produced. Their new song Touch, for example, the amount of promo materials from them doing the dance, which the dance is so freaking cute. Absolutely love the choreography. But from them doing the dance 50 million times on reels, flipping it, twisting it upside down, inside out, from the visuals to all of the photo shoots, the concept shoots. It's really refreshing to see the effort put into pushing the music. I know they came out with their Soft is Strong Sis EP, and even that I think came with a booklet and stickers and cards, and it's a whole thing. I mean, they've been going up. I think when I followed them a couple weeks ago, they were at like 848,000 followers on Instagram. And I went back the other day and they're at like 970,000. They're almost at 1 million. One thing I like, and not from an exploitative nature of like overworking the artist, but I like the fact that you can tell that they're really pushing their music. There's effort, there's money being put behind the concepts, the videos, and investing in the artists and their growth, because it might just pay off. And you even see some of the girls, posing with people like Olivia Rodrigo and with other K-pop stars. And it's really like cross-connecting fandoms. Guys, I'm kind of excited about them. I really enjoyed the documentary for the sheer fact of really seeing what goes into the process, the different methodologies in training in pop. To me, I'm here for training programs for adults, specifically over 18. I'm here for it, because I think we talk about again and again, in the Western market, artist in development is non-existent. And so it's a good thing that artists are going to have a chance to really tap in and develop amongst their peers, amongst people like them, to have healthy competition, but to also have qualified instructors to guide them. So I thoroughly enjoyed the Catseye doc, and I think I probably enjoyed it more because I didn't know who was even going to be in the group. So I know some people were upset because they felt like they featured more girls who didn't make it versus the girls who did. But for me, I had zero expectations. So all of this was such like a eye-opening learning experience and my first foot into that world, and I kind of liked it. So thank you guys so much for sticking with me. Like, comment down below on the documentary or just the idea of the training process. What did you think? And hit that subscribe button. Really appreciate it. And I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.